Braves are red hot, and we got a mystery guest. So let's get to some Braves talk. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to Braves Talk, the first of 2025. It is the Iceman, Matt Freites. That is the coach, Brad Powell, the OG, Rick Powell. We are here because the Braves are red hot, fellas. How we doing?
Iceman, doing well. Excited for our guest. Excited to get a little Braves Talk action in this week. It's been a while just with everything going on, but doing it ahead of the big rivalry game on Saturday is always fun. Tons to talk about. The Braves are rolling. Dad, how you feeling about the Braves?
I love the way they're playing last few games. Playing like I've expected them to play all year.
Oh, so, really? Okay, that's good.
Keep it going.
I like to hear that. I like to hear positivity. So, gentlemen, it is good to see your faces. Now, Rick, you did tease in the group chat that we had a mystery guest, and I think the guest has got a little bit out of control, but we are now ready to unveil our guest, and it is none other than Bradley superfan, friend of the show, Wes Johnson. Wes, welcome to Braves Talk.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate being on and happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, we're happy to have you. Now, obviously, we called you out because we wanted you to come on the show, a couple months ago. We're happy to have you here, and it's a good time because the Braves are red hot. Now, I know they did start a little bit shaky as it related to conference play at the end of last year, kind of beginning of this year, but they've really put some things together. So, Brad, why don't you get us into what the Braves have been up to in 2025?
Well, like you said, it's been a little bit of a rough start to conference play, at least through the first few games. A couple of tough overtime games back to back. Granted, we did come out victorious in those games. We did have a tough loss at home to Drake, followed by another close game on the road at UIC. But ever since then, the Braves have made some adjustments to the rotation, I think, and some guys are really emerging and playing well. An absolute shellacking of Indiana State, 118-65, followed by a 2-0 win streak on the Southern swoop over Murray State and Belmont, which is really exciting. And I know, Wes, I think you went down to Murray State, and we'll talk more about that later. And also, later, folks, stick around because we're going to talk to Wes about kind of his journey as a Bradley fan, how it came to be and how it's going, and then get some fun stories maybe from the road as he's followed the Braves around and hear kind of his take on the other arenas in the league and maybe some fan bases that he enjoys and doesn't enjoy interacting with. I think there's good and bad everywhere, so it'll be fun to hear your take on that, Wes. But, Wes, how do you feel about the way things are going for the Braves right now?
Really good right now, and I think we talked about this a little bit beforehand. I think it's no secret there were definitely some struggles going on that I think that Drake loss was definitely a little bit of a gut punch because I felt like it was right there. And even the UIC one was kind of a come to Jesus moment. Still don't know how we won that game, but I think after that, I think they just figured something out. Sorry for Indiana State to be the punching bag to figure that out, but it's ecstatic to have a 2-0 sweep in the Belmont and Murray sites because, I don't know, I'm still very, like a lot of you guys, and I'm always cautiously optimistic with these games. So when these games come up, I'm like, oh gosh, we're going to lose. How are they going to lose? So, but just fantastic. They just seem unfazed right now.
No, you're absolutely right. They do, and they're playing great basketball right now. And I don't think, since Belmont and Murray have joined the league, we hadn't won in either of those buildings, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
So it's good to get that monkey off our back, and obviously winning two in a row on the road in the Valley, never easy to do. And we took care of business, which was fun to see, and we've taken care of business on the road in the league so far. Dad, any thoughts on the Braves and where things are sitting right now?
Well, just because we mentioned about some adjustments, the lineup, bringing in Corey Thomas to do a little bit more, get some more time, and he's been doing very well. Granted, he's not scoring the 20 points a game, stuff like that, but he's doing so many other things, getting crucial rebounds, which we've been struggling to get, and fighting, So with his athleticism, quickness, at 6'10", I mean, that's kind of what we needed. And then we got Connor Dillon, and the emergence of Jaquan Johnson. Kwani, he is going to be a stud guard for us. We can keep him here.
Oh, for sure. And I think that, Bobby mentioned the UIC game was huge. And I think what we saw there was Duke Dean stepping up and, preseason player of the year, making player of the year type plays. And he's been doing that in clutch moments in games here over the last several games, which is great, right? He maybe isn't getting the production that he would want, but that's because how teams are defending him. I think he's taking a lot of attention, and he's found other ways to help the team win. And he's always there ready to step up in a big moment. The lights are never too bright for Duke, which is wonderful. And Wes, I know you've got some pretty strong opinions and thoughts on Corey Thomas and Bully, and I'd love to hear those.
Yeah, and Corey's been a great story this season because, his family's done an amazing job kind of following him around. I went to the Myrtle Beach tournament. His mom and his sister, I think his dad might have been there too. And we were talking to them and asking them, like, why does Corey not play? And, because at that time he really wasn't getting a whole lot of minutes. And they just kind of raised their shoulders and said, we have no idea. And so I think what's kind of come out of it is, once he finally got that opportunity, he's just kind of taken it and run with it. When I first met the guy, you could just tell, he's got great leadership qualities. Whether he's going to be on the bench or on the floor, he's going to make the right plays and lift the guys up. So I think with him, it's just he's not afraid of the moment. Anytime he's got an opportunity to make a great defensive play, score some points, he just doesn't hesitate. It's like he's been doing it his whole life. So I think that's been huge for us to have that sort of assertive post player that could take care of business.
Well, exactly what we need to. And I love talking or listening to him. He seems to be very witty with a sense of humor behind his wit. And I just love listening to him speak at any gathering or such that I've seen him. You got any word on Birch? Is he, back to not being sick?
I haven't heard anything, Rick, in terms of where he stands. I knew he traveled with the team, I guess I didn't pay attention to the bench. Was he on the bench?
Yeah.
Okay. I had heard that he'd made, that he had flown with the donors to Nashville, so I knew he was there.
Didn't get any playing time.
No, but he's on the bench, which is a good sign, which must mean that he's healthy enough to be around the team and probably participate in team activities. That's a good sign. We're going to need him going into Saturday. But, talking, kind of going back on Corey Thomas a little bit, I think that, we kind of talked on the show a lot about it over the course of the season so far, how he seemed like the type of guy when he did get opportunities was trying to make the best of them. He's not afraid to get in there and do the dirty work, and that's what this team needs is somebody who's going to go in there, put forth great effort to rebound and, just do the little things. And I think when we lost Mal, we lost a guy that was going out there and doing a lot of the little things. And Corey seems to have picked up a little bit of that slack, which has been huge.
It's a little bit of that grit, right, Brad? Like we kind of talked about that offline about it's like this team is missing some of that toughness when they really need it. And I'll tell you one thing that I noticed, and this group chat is a good way to kind of get a barometer of where things are, but I'm going to tell you guys something. During that Indiana State game, I saw everything lift up. They always say, rising tide lifts all boats. And I feel like the Braves figured it out. And I think the fan base has kind of figured it out too, because everybody seems to be really jubilant about this team. And you could see it in the way that you all were talking about it in that chat. And it's kind of snowballed from there. I mean, a lot of things are getting put together, and there were things I think we were kind of worried about, especially in non-con, even heading into conference play. But it is nice to see them put it together.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, we've seen it. And I think, fans short for fanatic. I've said that a million times, and we are all Bradley basketball fanatics. And when they're winning and playing like they're playing right now, you're not going to see a more jubilant, excited group of people. And when things aren't going well, you're probably, you won't find a more down and depressed group of people, And it is fun, though, as a fan to kind of really invest in something emotionally like this. It's completely out of your control and just go along for the ride. And it's been a fun one, man, to watch. And it's always exciting, too, when you see these other guys stepping up. We're getting contributions off the bench. Connor Dillon seems to be finding his way, and really at the perfect time, I think, because this team needs it. in a big way, especially from behind the 3-point line with Al and his struggles. It's been nice to see Connor come in and fill that role. And I think, despite some of the struggles that we see out of Meta, he seems to be gaining some confidence and really kind of finding his way a little bit. And I think he will continue to improve. And that's going to be huge for us as we continue through the rest of the Valley season.
I got scared a little bit at Murray. There was a sweet Meta blaster that happened there, and he kind of hung on the rim a little bit. If you guys remember that play, and the whole time I think even Wardle was yelling like, "Get down, get down!"
Yep. Yeah, there's been a few dunked by him and Darius. I think, man, come on, they're going to catch you one of these times. But
you got to love that.
They call that as much. They don't call that as much anymore. I feel like they used to be a little more sensitive about it. Seems like maybe they've kind of laid off a bit.
Yeah. Now with Meta, I think there's there's several things, small things, attention to detail that he loses focus on. Getting control of the ball, taking it up strong to the hoop, and he loses it. Causes turnovers in that way. Once he cleans that up, because he has been actually playing very aggressive, I think, for him. He's not quick. It'd be nice to see him get more than 3 inches off the floor when he goes up for a rebound or a block. But,
can you get even 1 inch off the ground, Rick? And you're going to.
No. Very simply put, no.
No.
I'm not 22 years old again either.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. You know that. You know that.
Yeah.
So, guys, the Valley Outlook. What do we say? We take a look at that. And I know, Brad, you kind of wanted to look at the standings a little bit and kind of talk about where things were as of Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, excited to see the Braves on top. Drake sitting right behind us at 7-2, with our lone Valley loss being at the hands of the Bulldogs. Wes mentioned something before we came on, and Wes, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you and let you talk about kind of how much different this could look if Duke Dean didn't step up and make a big play in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, just given how strong UIC's played, you think about if they would have gotten that win, Duke would have missed that shot in Chicago. You're looking at a 3-way tie for first place among Drake, Bradley, and UIC. And as of today, if UIC would have won that game, they'd have tiebreakers on both Bradley and Drake. And you would have a reality where UIC would be the number 1 seed at Arch Madness if it started today.
Are they the surprise team of the year so far?
Definitely. I think for a lot of these teams, Matt, it's you don't know what's coming in. You knew that a couple players were staying put at UIC, but there was a lot of new guys, a new coach, new system. So you really didn't know how it was all going to translate, once the season started. And they had a strong non-conference, but then they had their Valley opener against Northern Iowa. They get blown out, by like 20 or 30. I think it was at their building, and I think everyone was kind of quick to dismiss them again. And ever since then, I think they've really just picked it up. It's incredible.
Hey, Wes, who would be the biggest disappointment so far in the Valley?
Oh, boy.
And when I say disappointment, I mean, like, we kind of thought they'd be at least mid or possibly on the side of good, but they've really underachieved. Maybe that's a better phrasing for it.
I'd probably say it's a tie between, right now, it's Illinois State and Evansville are the two that come to my mind. Because I think Evansville, you got year 3 of Coach Ragland there. So you're thinking maybe they would take a little more of a step up. But they did lose a couple players to the transfer portal, including Hummerkaus going to Illinois. So I don't know. That kind of goes back and forth. I just think they've just been hit hard with the transfer portal and NIL. They just can't seem to compete.
It's a tough world to live in right now with NIL and the transfer portal, especially at this level.
And then you got Illinois State, and I'm not going to twist the knife too much here. Wife's in earshot here, and of course we got a game on Saturday. But I think they just had some tough luck. You think about Bradley in an alternate universe where a couple things wouldn't have gone our way with certain games. We might be in Illinois State's shoes.
Yeah,
but
they got three key players that's down for the season with injuries.
They had the one North Dakota State transfer guy. I can't remember his name. That's been in a boot most of the season
or something like that.
Yeah, they have Brandon Lieb, the Illinois transfer, who hasn't played yet this year. And then
he's done for the year.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, that's something I read here recently. It was him and one other guy that was expected to do well.
I'll tell you,
can't remember the name, but there was like 3 of them and all 3 were preseason. I mean, they were looking at them to be very key players.
But yeah, so and there's a reason they've been keeping Birch away from the team. That illness definitely hit Illinois State hard, and they're just now getting over that.
Yep.
So there's been a lot of bad things kind of going against ISU right now, which is kind of scary going into this game. But I don't know. Those are my initial thoughts on Illinois State.
Yeah, and Joey's right, man. Valpo's really pesky. I agree. They're playing some good basketball. They've got some things going well for them. And I know one thing that was kind of discussed here early in the season is Dad was really criticizing those out there who had Drake pretty high in the preseason standings, and thought they were overrated a little bit. And that doesn't seem to be the case necessarily, does it, Dad?
No.
That's pretty remarkable, though. I mean, they lost quite a bit in terms of their system.
I was basically looking at them from the vision of D2 players transferring with the D2 coach without really further examining those players' capabilities or even failing to recognize 4 starters for the same coach coming to a D1, knowing the system. That makes everything a little bit easier, but I was still looking at D2, the what do you call it? I'm having a brain fart.
But this is fun. Let's go.
Yeah. But anyway, never mind. But I can't bring it up.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But anyway, you understand what I'm getting at.
They have a good nucleus.
Yeah. But I was looking at them as being lower because they come from D2.
Am I hearing that you had an uninformed opinion on this show? Get out of here.
No kidding.
That's what we're all about here.
And they are still surprised, but they very well can be beat very easily. I mean, there's been 2 teams in the Valley that's already proven it.
That speaking of their system, Kevin puts in their entire system, and most of the talent came along with it. Is there a more frustrating system to play against? My goodness. I mean, it just felt they don't, and this is a very ignorant basketball statement I'm about to make. They don't appear to the ignorant eye to be like great at playing the game of basketball, but they play so well within their system that they're very fundamental. They cause problems for you. They play great. They play great defense, and they do the little things on offense. They take the shot clock down to 5 seconds every time they drive. They get to the free throw line. It's like the basketball version of playing small ball in baseball, and they do it exceptionally well. And it's got to be extremely frustrating for players to play against a team that plays that system.
Watching them, I was sitting there just shaking my head because it was like monkeys on a string, and Drake was just whipping the ball all over the court, and with every pass, you see 5 guys moving to the ball defensively, and it was just like we're chasing that. Don't chase it. Stay on your guy, because it ends up happening is what they were doing is one guy would get free after about 5 quick passes and a wide open layup.
Hey, before we move on, fellas, Ted, I'm sorry that we were so positive. Anybody who has kids, earmuffs, I'll say it. Fuck Drake.
That's right. And hey, we're just building them up so it feels that much better when we go take it to them in Des Moines.
Well, and Rick makes a good point. I mean, that's just why it was so frustrating in that game in Peoria. You stand there and just kind of like, how are we losing to this team? It's just what they're capable. They're bigger than the sum of their parts. It's just there's no doubt about it.
I feel besides us, because I wholeheartedly know we're going to go over there and beat them at their place here in a few weeks. But there's going to be somebody else, Northern Iowa, or even worse, Murray State again, and that's just going to drop them in. If you're looking at getting some separation between us and them as far as winning the regular season, because we're only a game behind, but which makes that game at their place even more important. But someone else is going to beat them.
Well,
I think I'm getting vibes from 2 years ago right now, guys. When you think about Bradley had to win every single game till the end of the year to actually win the Valley, championship. I'm getting that vibe right now. It's like if we're going to do if no one else could do the job, might as well do it ourselves.
I agree, and I think that's just it, right? We're in a position to, if Bradley just takes care of business, they don't have anything to worry about, right? You don't need help from anybody else, and that's the best position to be in. And I do think I agree with my dad. I do think they'll get a little help somewhere along the line from whether it's Northern Iowa, Murray, one of these other teams. But I also think that, not that Belmont's a world beater, but I think Drake avoids playing that game a second time this year. I think they'll get them once.
Yeah, they're done.
Right?
Yeah, they already played them.
Already played, right? So they don't have to play Belmont again. Are they missing out on a trip to Belmont? Is that what it is? Yeah. Gotcha. So, wonderful. So, obviously it's an exciting time in the Valley. Some of these teams, UIC has overperformed. They've been very exciting to watch. They've, Valpo's come a long way, I think, compared to where some people expect them to be, but nice seeing the Braves on top. At this point here, getting ready to turn the calendar into February here in a week or so, and with the Birds coming into town. But I'd like to, at this point in time, Wes, we've talked a little ball and talked about how the season's gone to this point, but I'd like to talk about your fandom, your journey as a Bradley fan, how it came to be, and kind of how it's maybe developed over time.
It's been a crazy evolution. I was not a Bradley fan growing up. I enrolled at Bradley, in 2005. And so, of course, most Bradley fans will know my freshman year was the Sweet 16 year. So, but my number one regret as a Bradley fan was only going to 2 home games that year. So I missed out on quite a lot. And so I only got so much exposure to Marcellus and Patrick O'Brien and all them. So, but followed that Sweet 16 ride, and it just kind of caught on ever since. So of course I was on the 5-year plan at Bradley. So I was kind of, got in the student section, and just kind of, I was shy at first. I'm not going to lie. I was very shy because when I was a freshman, sophomore, there were some intimidating fans in our student section. Very passionate, very loud. And I'm just like, I don't want to cross them. But I'll give Matt Russ a shout out. He was definitely one of the guys I looked up to in the student section. We graduated about the same year. I know
is he one of the ones you're referring to as intimidating?
Yes,
just for the record.
And he knows it. So, but anyway, so I think that's kind of where I saw very similar people, very passionate about Bradley. I just kind of, I got hooked. Met a lot of good friends, some of my best friends in the student section. And so then, once we graduated, there was like 4 or 5 of us that got season tickets together. So, and we've been in the same season ticket group now for about 12 years or so. So, nice. Yeah.
Sensing a pattern here.
Yes, Kenny. You're absolutely right.
Matt's a bully, man.
Is he catching strays? He's not even on here. He can't even defend himself.
I'll let him know. I'll let him know on Saturday. I'm assuming he'll be there. Shout out, Matt. But honestly, yeah. So a lot of people knew me as the crazy student section guy for a long time. I still get people that come to me and say, "I remember you in the student section acting like a crazy man" and all that stuff. So that was cool. But no, a couple things kind of were turning points for me. Just as a fan, number one, when I signed up for Twitter for the first time, I think that's really where I found a community of Bradley fans from all over. We talked about the group chat and all that, how amazing that is. And then about 5 years ago, I joined the board of the Bradley Braves Club. So you really get to see a lot of the behind the scenes on what makes Bradley go. Meet a lot of cool people. It's just, I pinch myself sometimes being in those meetings, hearing the cool things and how hard the administration works to make Bradley a great athletic program. So,
and think about that for like a larger institution, even how many more wheels or how many more elements it takes to keep these things churning. And like as fans, sometimes I think we take for granted, like the product is out there, we go consume it, and then we kind of move on. And it's like, it takes a lot. And it's pretty awesome, though, your story, because that's what fandom is all about. And I think today there are so many fans that kind of come and go from teams, and we can all be guilty of that. But it is awesome to hear an organic story about discovering a team, sticking with the team, memories with the team. And now, from what I can gather, you make it a family affair too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've got two kids, one's 6, one's 3, and
bless you.
Yeah. One of them, my 6-year-old, goes with me regularly to the games. So trying to get him to catch the bug a little bit. He's more of an agitator. His phase right now is cheering for anyone but Bradley to try to get a rise out of me. So he's a big Drake fan right now. So yeah. So I may move him to the upper bowl for the ISU game and bring my 3-year-old in. So
we got seats around us. You can come.
Give him a chair and send him out in the foyer and have him watch it from the TV screen by the men's bathroom.
As long as he's by that candy machine in the concourse, he doesn't care.
Okay.
So
is that the aforementioned Matt Russ right there?
Oh boy, I don't know. Oh, now he's playing innocent. What logo are they wearing on Saturday? Oh boy. My guess is my 3-year-old's probably gonna be wearing a Bradley shirt because he's cool with that. My 6-year-old's probably gonna be wearing the ISU shirt.
In all fairness, that works.
Yeah. So I got to know, obviously people think that like the students, which we know kind of the dynamic with Bradley basketball and the student body, and it's not great generally. The support's not what you see at some other schools. But for you, who was someone who was engaged as a student and involved with the program, how has it changed for you now being involved on the Braves Club level? Like, does it feel even more personal? Do you really feel like obviously we're all invested emotionally, but I got to imagine, I know there's a lot of people out there invested financially, but you're invested emotionally, likely financially, and then also the time you put into working on the board of the Braves Club. I got to imagine that you really feel just a strong sense of pride and just a lot tied to the program and their success.
Yeah, and I think how my fandom's evolved over time is I've gotten to know the coaches from the other programs, and so I'm starting to follow the cross country program a lot more.
They got Jacobson mad a few years ago. Just kidding, joking around on that one.
Yeah,
you remember that one, that incident, didn't you?
Jacobson. Oh, when Jacobson got mad at the. I know that. Yeah. I think those were people that were sitting like by the bench, which I knew.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just the overall investment. I think what I would tell people, especially when it's easy to just root for the Illini in this market, in the Central Illinois market, because that's the Big Ten school and all that. It's just amazing to me, just being part of a Missouri Valley Conference fan base, how much more connected you are to the fan base, to the players, to the administration. If you want to be, emotionally invested, get involved. It's not that hard to do. And I found that out. I think, I'm not afraid to talk to people. So it hasn't taken long to build connections like that. So if anyone, wants that, it's a lot easier to do at Bradley and to get that much more invested.
That's awesome. And, you mentioned like just obviously how tight-knit it is to be a fan of Bradley in this mid-major program. But I got to imagine just being a Valley fan, that there's maybe more camaraderie between the fan bases in the Valley than you'd find in, say, the Big Ten or the ACC. And obviously we have our rivalries, but I do think that there's kind of a mutual respect because we're all fighting for the same thing, and that's to be nationally respected, right? To get to the tournament and have people realize we play real Division I basketball at a high level in this league. And, it is nice to see when the postseason comes around that there does seem to be kind of widespread support for the most part. Obviously, there's a few people out there that like to troll and this and that. We won't mention any names, but there's a few individuals on Twitter that like to get people fired up. But, you've been around a lot of these fan bases. You've been, I think, to most of the arenas around the Valley. And so I'm curious what your experiences have been like doing that. What arenas have you really enjoyed? Are there any out there that really need a facelift? Valpo. And then and then the fan bases and what those experiences have been like.
Yeah, honestly, all of them have been a little different in each unique way. So I've been to all of them in terms of the current Valley schools. I've been to all of them except for Belmont. That's the last one that I got to get. So I've been pretty busy the last few weeks going to UIC and Murray State for the first time to get those off the list. I would probably say the ones that stand out to me the most, facility-wise, I love the Ford Center in Evansville. I think it's like a very updated version of the Peoria Civic Center because, well, it's a hockey arena, no different than Carver Arena. So, but it definitely a very impressive venue if anyone has been there before. I'm trying to think. I actually kind of liked UIC. For the knocks on them for lack of attendance and all that, I thought it was a pretty approachable arena. Nice on the outside, easy to walk around on the inside. I walk out my seat, I turn around, there's the bathroom. It's just super convenient. I'm trying to think. Murray was good. Definitely a lot bigger. I don't know. When you go into certain arenas, I think the two that come to mind, at least current ones that I would say were the most intimidating to walk into, Murray State and SIU. And I still think one of my all-time favorite memories 2 years ago when we were at Southern, 95%, 99% SIU fans. And that was the game Rink Mast hit the 4-point play to help preserve first place in the Valley. And I hadn't been that scared to be in an opponent's arena in a long time. So that's just and that dog pound is so when you go there, if you sit behind the Bradley bench or kind of in that area, you're right next to SIU's student section. And they've got certain leaders that are assigned there. They're kind of the main cheerleaders within the student section. And you don't want to cross them, man. It's, if you start humoring them, they're going to attack you. So they're so passionate. I respect the hell out of them.
Sounds like you needed Matt Russ to keep the dog pound in check.
He needs he needs the heavy. Yep.
Yeah. So, but but with all respect, that one's definitely the Banterra Center's a lot of fun.
Hey Wes,
So
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
I gotta say the fan base we had, a few years removed. When you started at Bradley, we had the Mullen Army, and that filled up almost that entire end where the band sits. Just to the band's right. They had that whole thing all the way up to the lower bowl filled up with students, and it was that section was rocking most of the time. So,
well, even my first couple of years at Bradley, kind of Sweet 16 year, and the first couple of years after that, if the ISU games, if you didn't get there early enough as a student, you were in the upper bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. There was a couple of games I was in the upper bowl in the student section back in the day. I think Bradley would kill for that now.
Oh, absolutely, they would for sure. I mean, granted, you always get a big crowd for a big opponent, but I remember when Michigan State came to town and Bradley basically led that game the entire way until like the last minute and a half or whatever it was, and that place was packed. I believe it was a whiteout. That was electric. That's one of the best atmospheres I've ever been in as a Bradley fan, and then I've been in some good ones, but that one, the only thing missing there that night was a victory.
It really was.
That was actually going to be my question, Wes, was like, what was the best game you've ever been to? Not necessarily because the stakes were the highest, but like the best game. Like for me, the best game I ever saw football-wise was Virginia Tech versus Miami in 2001 because that football team was the greatest football team I've ever seen play live. We lost, but it was still awesome. So in that kind of realm.
What's interesting for me as a fan is I kind of jumped into the Sweet 16 year, and then it's kind of a slow descent to kind of being mediocre for a while and then just being bad. So there was kind of a large gap where not many good things happened, but I'll give you two. I'll give you two games. 2018, the home game against Loyola. We were their last loss until they lost to Michigan in the Final Four. So and I remember the game before was Nate Cannell taking over at Indiana State, and I was there for that game at the Holman Center.
Remember that?
And I remember after that win thinking, oh gosh, this game against Loyola is going to be huge. And you walked into that arena that night, and you felt it. You felt how big that game was.
Mhm.
It wasn't the most full that game. I think it was like 5,000-6,000 maybe, but it was just electric when Krutwig was literally under the basket. Could have made the game-winning layup, but he just couldn't do it with his oppo hand, and time ran out. And I just remember they had just started putting a barricade in my section, where back in the day I could actually go all the way down toward the student section and onto the floor. I think it was a good thing they had the barricade there, because I would have been running straight for the floor after they won that game. I went nuts. And it felt so good to get that sort of big win.
Right.
You know, it felt, because Bradley was starting to play pretty well that year. That was their Wardle's first 20-win season.
Yeah,
and I think that's when I realized, holy crap, we're back, baby. We're back. Bradley's back. So, second one, without a doubt, I never thought I'd see Carver Arena sell out again. I really didn't.
So the Drake game. Yep.
Just, they opened it up an hour and a half early. The place was already half full, half out, with still an hour to go.
That was rocking.
It was so rocking, and just hear the noise, and it's just, I had tears, guys. It is just being a fan that long. You just love it when other people get it. They get how huge that game was. It's just
for me, it was so cool to, I grew up, some of these that Kevin's mentioning in the chat, I was at Michigan 97 and Tulsa 95 as a kid, and used to going to Carver, sold out games fairly regularly. And like you, I didn't think I'd ever see it again, and to see it and in that moment with what was on the line, and then to win in the way that we did, it was awesome. It was. It was emotional. It was exciting. And to know that there were a lot of people that were in that arena maybe for the first time, and for them to get to share in like what we all love so much, and to see it in action and at its best, was really, really awesome.
Truth, Joey.
This is why this podcast exists, guys, because we need to tell these stories, keep it alive. And speaking of good games, we had a good game coming up this weekend, or Saturday, 1:00, Carver Arena. Everybody should be there. And if you're not, you're a loser. Anyway, so Wes, 126 in the net. Rick, I think that still meets your criteria, right? Have you gotten it out to 400 yet, or is every team a good win now? But anyway, how about Wes? You have a lot of opinions on this, obviously, because your wife is an alum. You watch a lot of these games. So why don't you break down for us some key players, strengths, and weaknesses for the old Redbirds?
I think you got to start with Chase Walker, just the obvious presence in the room. I just, Rick and I were talking before we went on. It's just, how do you approach this guy? Do you put a meta on him, because he's bigger? Do you have someone that's a little quicker? Because Walker presents a unique problem where he's about 270 pounds, but he moves around like a point guard. He's just very quick, got great post up moves, just knows what to do in any situation. You can throw anything at him, he's going to figure it out, and you can't foul him because he's a pretty good free throw shooter. So I think. So, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'd be open to your takes because I haven't figured it out yet. Do you put Darius on him? Do you put Corey on him? I just haven't figured that out yet.
Maybe you run different looks at him so he can't get comfortable, so don't give him time. Obviously over the course of the game, he's going to figure some things out, but don't give him time to settle in against, just one guy or one or two guys. Maybe we give him different looks and mix things up a bit. You run Meta at him a little bit, run Corey at him a little bit, mix Darius in there possibly at times, and see what kind of, disruptions you can cause with him getting into a rhythm. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm going to say, here's the disruption. You send, get Corey on him or Meta, and whichever one is the second they throw the ball down to him, Kwani needs to just dash to him and strip the ball from him down low. He's that quick and that savvy at doing that. The only problem is you're running that is, the foul issue.
I think this guy's bringing up a good point here because, he talks about the 3-ball for Illinois State. Last year, it was kind of laughable how bad they were from 3-point range. And this year, they're they're right up there as one of the best. And so, I think of, Johnny Kinzinger, Ty Pence, Malachi Poindexter, I think it's Jack Doherty, they've got a lot of good shooters, and even Dalton Banks when he's, up for it. So,
But what's weird, I was looking at their cumulative stats for the season, for the overall season. And then I looked into the conference season, and they're actually dropped down a little bit. But there's only there's 3 guys that average double figure scoring, but there's 12 on the roster. 10 of them are 10 minutes or more in a game. So they all get to play, but there was seven that get, score a lot that are 10 points or more, or actually, let me figure this out.
So they're balanced is what you're saying.
Not necessarily balanced but anybody can go off. I'm just saying what they're averaging for the season, because any one of them can go off, but there's 10 guys that get a bulk of the minutes, starting from 10-minute average on, point wise, there's 7 that score 20 or more, or not 20 or more, but 20 minutes or more, but they're between, they're less than 10 points a game averaging. There's 3 that's averaging 7 point whatever, between 7 and 8, and then there's a couple more that's 5 or 6, and then it goes down from there, obviously. But you just got the Walker, Kinzinger, and Banks that average double figures, and the highest one is 14 something. So it's just play.
Go ahead, Wes.
No, I think my take, and I think one of my keys, I watched Dalton Banks, quite a bit. My one observation anytime I watch that guy play is I think he dribbles too much. I think sometimes he gets a little dribble happy, and I think certainly someone like Jaquan could definitely exploit that.
Yep.
I think I remember, I think it was when ISU lost to Belmont at the buzzer. Banks had it, could have won the game. He dribbled a little too much, and Belmont gambled and got a steal off of him, and they turned around and hit the game winner. So I that's the one thing I'm going to be kind of looking out for is which Dalton Banks shows up, because I don't want to shortchange the guy. He's a good player, but when he's on offensively, are we going to get that, or are we going to get one that's a little more flawed? So that's what I'll be paying attention to for sure.
Right. And then the other factor is this is Illinois State Bradley. Just that in and of itself, you take whoever's the better team on paper and the records, throw them out the window, throw the ball up, and see who's on top when the dust settles.
So that being said, Wes, what do you think? Obviously we talked about their key players, but strengths and weaknesses, maybe you don't have to go into those so much, but what are sort of the keys to victory for the Braves here? Obviously we know we got to keep Walker in check just because some of the mismatches. But what are the Braves going to have to do to get this thing done?
It's interesting because, not that Belmont had a Chase Walker or anything like that, but they certainly have 3-point shooters all over the place. And so I think what Bradley's going to have to do is certainly try to bring that same defensive effort that they brought against Belmont and bring that against Illinois State. I'm one of those guys that has faith in Wardle, where I'm going to watch this game and I'm going to be like, why did they leave that guy open? That while he's a decent 3-point shooter, his percentage isn't necessarily as strong as the others. So I think what's going to happen is they're going to probably get a key on one guy, although he's decent. They're going to hope that he misses some compared to others because they don't want to get Kinzinger hot. They don't want to get Poindexter hot, something like that. So I think that's going to be key. And I'll say this too, with the potential sellout. I keep looking at the charts, the seating charts for Saturday's game. If it's not a sellout, I'm betting you it's going to be 9,000. That's going to be at that game. This will be kind of the first Carver Arena game that has this much by a wide margin. So how do the players handle that? Is it excited energy, nervous energy, or they just steamroll? That's we've had some games like this where it's been big and we've fallen short.
Yeah, we definitely have. I think some ones that stick out in my head. I feel like we've done that a lot at home. Not so much recently, but maybe 5-6 years ago against Northern Iowa. And it's just so frustrating because it's you feel like we're gaining momentum. All of a sudden we get 7,500 people show up and we come out flat. But I think that as a staff and as a program, we've kind of turned that corner a little bit, especially at home, anyways. I guess we could always talk about Indiana State last year, but that was a really good basketball team too. So this team is not that team. but like, Dad sets a rivalry game. You can throw the records out, all that stuff. It's going to be a battle, but at the end of the day, if Bradley goes out there, like we said, even in looking at the season as a whole, if they take care of business, they play Bradley basketball, this shouldn't be a problem, and we should be celebrating a nice win the rest of our afternoon and evening on Saturday. And I think back with 96, I remember that when Bradley and ISU were going for the regular season Valley title in 96, and they played on senior day at home, and it was jam-packed. It was awesome, and they were selling Pluck the Birds shirts that were fantastic. I should have kept that, if I would have had any foresight back when I was, 8 years old, I may have, but,
8.
But yeah, probably somewhere around that age, 8, 9. I don't, but I guess it would have been 10. I was born in 86, so 10 years old. But anyhow, obviously no foresight for historical artifacts when it comes to the Braves. But
I've got a Pluck the Birds rally towel that'll be coming with me on Saturday.
Nice.
You can believe that.
Yeah, I got to make or say something about during the Belmont game. About halfway through the first half, I looked over to Brad and I says, "Do you get that feeling that we're just kind of like toying with these guys to figure them out, and then we're just gonna go off on them at any point in time?" And it, maybe got to halftime and we're tied. Then we come out the second half and exactly what I said. And thing is, that was very similar to the Murray State game.
Yes.
Except we acted earlier and got, I can't remember what the lead was.
It was a 6-point lead at half. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, both those two games were very similar in that just kind of like we're just messing around, just seeing how things are going to play out. And then
credit to the staff. They figure some things out. They make some adjustments. I mean, even looking from like first time we played a team in the second, Indiana State, that first time at their place goes to overtime. Second time we blow them out. I mean, obviously we played really well, but I'm sure the game plan also had a lot to do with that. And so credit to the staff for that.
Well, it's what Wes said. You have faith in the coach, faith in the coaching staff. And I think that as a fan, that's the positivity that you need to have. And it's not as if Wardle just got here. He's been here for a long time, proven himself. He knows how to coach basketball and knows how to coach his program. And I think we all just have to have faith that he knows what to do. So it's going to be a big game this weekend. And Rick, of course, we can't get out of here. We need a metastat line.
Oh, goodness.
Hit him with the good stuff
at
here.
least
really play.
There's going to be one one meta blaster with a and one against Walker.
Wow, he went from ranges to very specific. There's going to be an and one. This is great content, Rick. That's why we have you here. I love it.
Fantastic.
I absolutely
anything else?
Yes, anything else.
That's it.
That is
awesome.
it.
I love it.
A win, a W for the
home
Braves. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, everybody get your ass out to Carver this weekend. Support the Braves. And Wes, is there anything that you'd like to impart on us and the audience here before we get the hell out of here?
I would say that's one thing to show up, boys, but bring the freaking noise. All right, that's the thing. We gotta scare ISU a little bit here. So let's get ready. Let's cheer loud, and like Joey said earlier, we got to bring the chaos.
That's
love
right.
it.
I can't wait to see who wins that contest.
I'm letting Joey win that one. I thought about posting something. I can't beat that. You can have the courtside seats, brother.
What a great guy. And that's why we have him on here, because you are a philanthropist, you're a super fan, and you know what? That's what makes the show so great. Well, I had a good time, guys. Wes, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, everybody get out there and support the Braves. Fuck Drake. And guess what, guys? This is Braves Talk. The opinions and viewpoints expressed on I&C Sports are those of Matt Freites, Brad Powell, and their guests, and not necessarily those of the Matty Ice Media Network. I&C Sports is exclusively owned by Matt Freites and Brad Powell and is brought to you by the Matty Ice Media Network.